I am joined today with Marialice Curran, and I'm so excited. We're going to be talking about all things digital citizenship and specifically diving into the world of tech for good. So, Marialice, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm so happy to be joining you. I am right now literally in Connecticut. Um, that's physically, but my heart belongs in Boston and I act like it's 3,000 miles apart. But I've played a lot of different roles, both in Boston and Connecticut. So I've been a middle school teacher, I've been a middle school principal. In Connecticut, I was a faculty member on record for the Ed Tech program for teacher preparation. And most recently, I've been really lucky to be able to work with school communities around the world around how to use technology for good through my organization, the Digital Citizenship Institute. And that's how we have connected. And I was so happy last April that you were part of our global student showcase and we got to really celebrate how young people are using tech for good. So I love this conversation today.
Excellent. I'm so happy to dive into it further. Yes, it was a pleasure to participate in that in April, and even more of a pleasure to actually introduce the world to the students that we got to work with. That was really special, and they were doing some very special things. So hopefully we can encourage more students and teachers and educators to want to spread the tech for good message and learn a little bit more about it today. So that's our goal. So the very first thing is a lot of when I was actually doing my own research on, tech for good, it's a lot of people own this term, and a lot of organizations have access to this term, and anybody can, but a lot of people might not actually be familiar with it. So, what does the concept of tech for good actually mean to you?
Well, I happen to use the hashtag use tech for good.
Mhm.
So I know that the tech for good out there, it's right. It's like a large umbrella. I happen to put the use in front of it because I really want to get that message about the action, the actionable piece to it. And so, when people ask me, what do I do? I don't lead with digital citizenship. I'll tell you that
Mhm.
because that term is really broad and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so I tend to say I work with school communities, not just with young people, but like this is an intergenerational approach for a school community. So, not just what we do in school, but what we do at home, at play, at work, where no matter how young or old you are, we are all using tech for good. So, that actionable piece where I don't know, you carve out time and space for a school community to come and learn with students. And that's the powerful part, like where we're side by side learning together in a really positive, proactive way. So that tech for good or use tech for good, I feel like it invites people, it invites communities to want to do something really, really positive. When you start to make those changes in your own community, in your own sphere, wherever that might be, it's got that ripple effect. And we're always looking for moments to create more ripples, more positive ripples.
One thing I also noticed in the things I was reading was a very important word, and that was deliberate or intentional, and how these kinds of things don't happen by accident. You have to plan for it in some respect. So yeah, that's great. And I actually went on to the Digital Citizenship Institute website, and one of my favorite videos that you had on the website was where the students were teaching the cyber seniors about Flipgrid. It's
Oh, it
fantastic.
just, yes. And when you create those moments, right, you have to create that time and space. And it's a two-way street. Everybody's learning. And it's powerful that way. And for those seniors, the message that day was, yes, we've got these mobile phones and I play games on my phone, but everybody needs to wake up and have a purpose. And so I know for that particular video that you're speaking of, uh, the director of that senior center said, it's bingo, it's yoga, they've got programs that are regular ongoing programs. But when there was an opportunity that young people were going to come and model how to use tech for good, it was filled and they wanted more opportunities. And so that to me is what we need more of in communities everywhere.
That's so great. I love that. And so speaking of those opportunities, what opportunities do you believe technology holds for young people specifically in terms of their education and building their future skills? What's out there that exists, or what does the future hold?
It all depends, right? It depends what you have access to. So I even look at it from like the simplest like standpoint. Even if we don't have all the bells and whistles, the shiny new, tech tools, if we just provide opportunities to break down classroom walls to allow our young people to connect and collaborate in really meaningful and, what you said, deliberate ways, for collaborative projects, that even if that is the only tech, like that is the tech that we, have access to it, that in and itself is going to make what we'd already talked about, those positive ripples. Anything else with what, I mean, we could talk about emerging technology and AI and AR and VR, and the future is bright, but what it really comes back down to is that there is a human, right? We need to learn. We need to have those moments where I can see the human sitting next to me around the world and across the screen. So, just breaking down those classroom walls in meaningful and deliberate ways to connect and collaborate, that's powerful. That's it right there. Anything else is an added bonus. But when you see yourself and other people, or you see the humanity, or you experience something that you've never been invited to walk in those shoes. Like if I go back to April for our Global Student Showcase, I've been in a lot of incredible learning moments, but April asked me to do things that even I have never experienced. We had a presenter, and, I got a message. I'm so sorry, I can't present. My country is at war.
Mm.
We are on foot and we are fleeing to the border of Egypt. And I've never had to experience something like that. There was another in Portugal, and it was weather related, and just things that I just haven't experienced. And all we really were doing in April, I felt like it wasn't really focused on the tech. It was focused on the humans, right?
Mm.
That were doing really good things. And the part about using the tech for good was we were inviting others to come and learn like alongside, right? I want to learn with you. I don't want to talk at you. I want to learn alongside you.
It's like the difference between parallel play and, that collaborative play, right? It's like, we could all be sucked into our technology, but then we could also be inviting this person who doesn't know anything about it and teaching it to them, and really making it a more that more collaborative, empathetic experience. Which everything that you were just saying, I was thinking of the social emotional learning components that can be learned. We think that technology and SEL are so separate, but they're really not. They're so
Right.
not.
It's that it goes back to that human connection. And I feel like we all, no matter how young or old you are, we all need that reminder about the humanness of all of this, right?
Mhm.
And especially when you think about applying that there is a human. I mean, there's a lot of bots out there, but for generally speaking, it's another human being that is, receiving those words and those actions. And so that part really matters.
Absolutely. And this leads very nicely into my next question, which is the dialogue about the misuse of tech and social media. And so how can schools and educators create this conscious consumption of tech and digital media? How do you do that?
Oh, I love that. So, we have to learn how to consume, right? Like we're all consumers. And that really speaks directly to the importance of balance. So this is one of those pillars for digital citizenship about, knowing that balance of being both on and offline, and that when you are plugged in, it's meaningful, it's deliberate, it's not just that doom scrolling. But how can we go from being informed, right? Being informed consumers, to also being creators, right? Like, so I'm not just, and that goes back to that action piece as well, that it's not just happening to me. I'm just not, taking it in. I've got that action piece, and I'm a creator as well. And that importance of being balanced and being informed and being inclusive. But for like school communities, I always say, let's just start. Like, let's take a look at your tech policies, right? Like, is there
Mhm.
a tech policy that is for the entire district? Is it does it apply to every school, or do you have different tech policies at different levels? When was the last time it was updated? Like let's just start with the language. And if you start to notice that the language is a lot of don't statements, right?
Right.
And you start to notice that there are voices that are missing. Well, what can we collectively do to invite, right, the entire school community, right, to get those different voices, to change those don't statements into I will statements? And that in and itself, if that was just one thing that you started with, it would change. It would be the start of changing the culture, from something that's reactive to something that's really proactive.
Well, and that was another thing I wanted to talk about too, is like that difference between consuming and creating. Because obviously, when you do consume a lot of media and tech things that exist in the world, you can't help but be inspired most of the time. I know that in my own, experience, I do get inspired. And then now that action piece that you were talking about earlier, what can you do to use that action piece to become a creator yourself? So what can students do to become those content creators for good?
I feel like our young people just need the right grown-ups in their life that are going to
Mm.
carve out that time and space. I mean, I'm a massive fan of project-based learning, whether it's project-based, passion-based, problem-based. I mean, just that our young people, it's not that one size fits all, but that I can take my unique voice as the learner, and I've got a passion, and I've got something that really I want to make a difference, and that I have got the right grown-ups that are going to support that type of learning. And I always say this. So I am not tech savvy. I'm the first one. I mean, I was a faculty member and in a school of education for the ed tech program. And if you were enrolled in my course, the first thing I would say on the first night, I'm so sorry. If you enrolled in this course and you thought I was going to teach you something, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong course, right? Which is, can alarm people, especially with the cost of, a 3-credit graduate course. But I would follow it up with, but if you can trust me, right? If you can find an ounce of trust, I am willing, I'm excited to learn with you. And I feel like for the teachers that might still be hesitant, that like, I'm supposed to be an expert. No,
Mm.
I mean, you don't have to be an expert with the tech. All you really need is you just have to be curious. You have to be full of curiosity, wonder, and awe, right? Like that is it. And as long as you have that disposition and you are willing to learn alongside your students or your colleagues, it will be the best invitation, right, to an incredible learning journey. Because as educators, we say, right, we all profess that we are lifelong learners, but it's also really kind of easy to say, oh, but I'm really uncomfortable because I don't know enough about this. And so I'm going to choose not to move forward with the tech piece, because there's so many unknowns. And if anything, do not be afraid, right? Like just have that willingness to learn alongside your students, and what you will, collectively create will be a really powerful learning moment.
There's so many things to dissect in that too, because I was thinking back to when I was still teaching and in the classroom and working with other teachers who also felt like, well, if I don't know this thing very well, how am I supposed to teach it? And I think it actually offers a very beautiful moment of that intergenerational learning, to be very transparent with your students like you were in your own experience with that grad class. It's like, listen, we're in this together. And it also allows students to see that making mistakes is normal. So that's great, within itself. And I think anytime that you can empower students to potentially be the experts, they're tech natives. They're going to know how to operate so many things that we are not even aware of yet. It's a beautiful thing to give them that opportunity to shine, I think. So,
Oh, and I am a massive fan of always having that spotlight to shine on others. I am an untraditional learner, right? So I am an absolute failure. If you looked at my transcript, K to 12, an absolute failure. I just happen to always love to learn, even though my transcript might not look great. It might not look like I was, actively engaged, but that's what fueled me, right?
mm,
And in all of those moments where I felt like I was a failure, it was in those times that really, I saw something like what I thought was my greatest weakness actually ends up being like my superhero moment, right? Like these gifts and talents. And if there's anything, especially when I think about the beginning of this, new school year, every single student, every single one of them, they are gifted and talented. They all come with their own gifts and their own talents. Now, I know gifted and talented, it's its own little program, and I'm certainly not even trying to say anything about a gifted and talented program. But as educators, as grown-ups, if we can take some time, right, for those moments, they will shine, they will take the lead, and you will see these gifts and talents, emerge, come to the surface. And it's like you said, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful moment.
Yeah. And I think part of the responsibility of the grown-ups is to help curate some of these experiences in the early stages and giving students these parameters of, listen, like these are some safe spaces for you to move in and test things out. And I think part of that, which goes into my next question, which is like curating resources and platforms and tools for students. Like, hey, here's some great places for you to get started. Do you have any favorite platforms and tools that help aid students in that tech for good mission?
Okay, I just happened to be on a webinar with Flip, and I have to say, I was one of the original, like when they were just a startup. And I love that idea of amplifying all voices.
Mm.
And I love that they have immersive reader, like it's accessible. And I even think about like our grownups, right? Not just our young people, but that you can include because of immersive reader. And let's just say we've got parents that speak different languages, like it is going to be accessible to everybody. So what happens in the classroom can still happen at home, and it can invite those grownups, and not just the parents and the caregivers, but let's get our grandparents in there as well. So I do happen to really love Flip. Um, because it's very inclusive, because it's amplifying every voice. And so that's one that if you have not tried out Flip, and can I just give a shout out to Jaritza? Jaritza just did this global cultural exchange on Flip, and she's continuing to do it in these cohorts. We got to celebrate her global cultural exchange on Flip during our April student showcase, and it was incredible. They were high school students in California, and it was around cooking, and the students had to go and invite the parents and the grandparents, and it was that intergenerational. Everybody was learning and everybody had access. So that would be definitely one big shout out for a tool and a platform that I've been with for a really long time, that I love the community, and I love that it's about amplifying all voices.
That's great. And you mentioned already Jeresa's example, but are there other examples that you've seen in your experience where students have used some sort of platform to the nth degree, or even grown-ups? Like what have you seen in your world?
Okay, well, I'd love to give a shout out to a student in India. So Namia Joshi, during the pandemic, I did this cohort. I just was like, oh my gosh, the whole world has shut down. There's so many unknowns. I hand invited educators that I thought wouldn't think it was like one extra thing to come and do this 6-week cohort where we were meeting, and I changed the time zone so that we could meet, literally around the world. Well, Namia asked if she could join this cohort as the only student. And what Namia does, her hashtag, she uses each one teach 10. And it's that idea that if just each one of us teach what is one person, it has that ripple effect. And, 10 more people and 10 more people are impacted. But what she does with Minecraft, now, I want you to know, I can't even pretend to understand gaming, that I didn't grow up as a gamer. But what she has created for Use Tech for Good in Minecraft blows my mind. Like, I just am amazed at what she does, especially with the foundation of getting those pillars for digital citizenship within the gaming environment. So I'd love to give her a shout out. And if
Yes.
people don't know about her, Namia Joshi is incredible. She has a podcast. She keeps inviting incredible grownups. And I feel like every grown-up says that they learned more from Namia than Namia could have ever learned from the grown-up. So that is another wonderful shout out. And I do love her hashtag. Oh, in fact, I do have her book. I have it. In fact, I didn't mean to necessarily bring her up, but she illustrated the
Wow.
cover.
What
And
a talent.
Yes, yes. So I'm really proud. I'm very proud of her story about each one teach 10, and what her message is for young people. Well, it's for the grown-ups too, to make sure that the young people see that all it takes is one person to stand up and make a difference, right? And then one becomes many. And so her book is really to inspire other young people to whatever it is. Her passion happens to be gaming and Minecraft, but whatever that might be, whatever that is, you just take it and you run to the end zone.
That's great. That's she's an inspiration. I remember when she participated in April, and yeah, it's just quite impressive what young people can do when you say have the right grown-ups around them to support it. And clearly she's got the right grown-ups around her.
Yes, 100%, 100%. That's really, I feel like that's the magic sauce right there, is that we need to have more grown-ups see their responsibility in this and say, because it doesn't just, and if it's not happening in the classroom, as a parent, as a guardian, as a grandparent, what can we all collectively do to make our spheres better and have that ripple effect?
Excellent. Any final thoughts on tech for good now and in the future?
Okay, well, you had brought up that cyber seniors. And so
Yes.
if I were to mention, they are a free program. I love that program. They're out of Canada, and your students could get volunteer hours. And there is a whole program specific around teens working with seniors. And I love anything to do with generational learning. So I could go on and on. We could talk for hours
We really
about
could.
examples, but and lots of tools. I mean, I could keep going with tools as well. And if you don't know Jamie Donley, do you know Jamie Donley?
I
I
personally do not know.
I want to put Jamie Donley on your radar because I
Great.
do a lot of work with her. I'm never going to pretend to be an expert in emerging technologies, but she runs AR, VR in EDU. And and this is all immersive, right? This is the immersive world. But when we work together and we present together, we're building that foundation around digital citizenship, around use tech for good. And that idea of seeing the human next to you around the world and across the screen. Well, I feel like we do with something a little bit different. We're asking for you to see the human in the avatar, right? Like adding another layer to this immersive world, which is, AI, it's all of it. And again, it can be scary for the grown-ups. Like, I'm not an expert in that. Well, you don't have to be. There are people there that are already experts that are excited to join you, that want to learn with you. You just have to be willing to say, okay, I want to be a part of that. I want to bring that type of learning, experience to my school community. And that's it.
That's
and people
great.
are really willing.
Yeah, I will definitely have to connect. You said Jamie Donnelly, right?
Yep. Jamie Donley. It's Jaime. Jamie Donley, and she runs AR, VR in EDU.
Perfect. I will be looking her up for sure.
Oh, good. Terrific.
Yeah.
I love
excellent.
connected good people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time today to talk about this. And I know, as you said, we could go on and on and on with examples and platforms and tools and ideas and all that stuff. And I hope that we do. I hope that we do in the future do exactly that. So thank you again for making the time.
Well, wonderful. Well, I know that this is, last April, that was our first connection, but we are going to keep with that Global Student Showcase next April, and we
Yay.
are looking forward to continuing to celebrate, because those are we need to have, because when you do celebrate, you are inviting other classrooms, other communities to come be inspired and be empowered by the words and actions of our young people. So I'm really proud to be on this journey with you. And Meg, languages, I'm really proud of that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marialice. Appreciate it.
Terrific. you.